Because you're magic people to me. You're magic people to me. Hold your head up high, let your voices fly. I'm proud to be Māori.
Tēnā tātou te whānau, welcome back to another episode of Planting Seeds, and very stoked to have the sister come onto the show. And we're down in Nelson at the moment for kaupapa Real Talk. Many of you may know her as Wahine toa hunting, but this is the sister Pania, and I'm so thankful that you've keen to come on and have a kōrero, sis. So how are you first and foremost?
Oh, bro, I'm buzzing, you know. Oh, what?
Yeah,
okay.
Come closer.
You edit these, because it's going to be terrible. I'm just floating at the moment, bro. You know, I've had a beautiful journey down here. If we just talk about today, like I'm just floating. I've been blessed to be, like, I was going to say, stuck with you. Oh, hell. I've been with you for, you know, these flights, and our kōrero today has really brought on my Māori flow to move on to going to do what we got to do with our kaupapa. And then I just got some amazing, beautiful news that Wahine toa hunting will be funded. So my Māori is, you know, through the roof, because, you know, these last 3 years, everything has come out of our own pocket, and my pockets be shallow, girl. They be dry, tapped out. So this is just, today has been just such a beautiful blessing of a day. So I'm just feeling beautiful.
Honestly,
yes.
sitting over here, and like you said, we've been journeying today, and we've been having heaps of beautiful kōrero and all of the things that you've been mentioning. You had one conversation when we got here, and it just brought everything into alignment, and a lot of the, I want to say, struggles or challenges with your kaupapa wahine toa hunting. It's sort of like now there's a major solution there where you're able to do the mahi, and you're able to pour so much more wairu into this kaupapa that you really love.
Yes, I just felt like I know it was almost like a challenge to myself, like to get it done at that level with no funding, because there was opportunities to make money from our people, and if I would have done that from, like, this kaupapa would have no integrity. And I had to hold true to the kawa of wahine toa hunting, is it's not there to make money out of our people's pockets, because you can't take money from people that, number one, don't have any. Like, if I'm trying to help people live tino rangatiratanga manu motuhake by getting back to the land because it's cheaper, because it centres your wairu, all of it, your Māori, then I go and take money for that from them, the same ones that can't afford to fill their freezers, like, bro, you know. And it's been a long journey, a struggle of a journey, but I'm glad that I've done that mahi for those 3 years and put it in, because now I'm sitting back going, okay, that's done now, you know. Like, I've proven it to myself that, yeah, right, you can do that without money. So now having putia, as much as we don't like to admit it, is a necessary evil, but it opens up so much different doors for funding and for, like, bringing the kaupapa up a whole nother level and beginning to just extend the Māori, you know, and being able to travel and being able to get to all the women that are down south that can't afford to come to Rotorua or where I'm based, or, you know, fly down from Auckland, because that's all that stuff is expensive. So it means that I get to help a lot more people. Yeah, I just get to help a lot more people, and that's just, I'm just blessed. Like, yay.
Honestly, you're on like cloud nine, you're just like, man, and you got a powerful story, you know, and there's a lot of what you do, it is for the kaupapa. You're driven by a sense of contribution. You're driven by a sense of service. You're driven by the sense of, like what you said, tino rangatiratanga and mana motuhake. And if we were to really go into that, you know, because some people might not be aware of some of the mahi that you do. So if you want to talk about wahine toa and what this kaupapa actually is.
So, all right, if we strip it right back to the beginning. So I was in Winds with my cousin, and I was sitting in there because I was an advocate. And I looked around, and the whole waiting room was full of Māori wahine on their whenua asking for help. You know, you don't want to be in Winds. No one wants to be there. That is the most Māori crushing place you can ever want to be. And especially if you're tangata whenua, you're in there because the lack of knowledge hasn't been passed to you. How to live tino rangatiratanga o mana motuhake. So you're in there asking for food grants, and you really, the colonisation of our people has stripped it down to that you're sitting in this waiting room asking for help when all you need is knowledge. And I sat there and I was just like, it just started hitting me like, I won't be in there asking for a food grant because I know how to live mani motuhake thing. the
You
atua
can
for
swear if
that.
you want.
No, I was going to say Black Jesus. Then I was like, atua. That's probably a better way. Right, thank the atua for that. And then I was just like, how do I do this? And then my bro made a video about getting back to the land, and it just all started clicking. Oh, yeah. And so when we were inwards, my cousin's mate, she had just asked for a food grant. She was already crushed before, she didn't want to be there. And they turned her down, bro. So not only did her money get stamped on, she's still couldn't feed her kids. And this was a huge, huge problem. For me, when I look at huge problems within our community, I think, right, because sometimes they can seem so overwhelming. You're like, how do you start? So I look at the biggest problem and then I simplify it. What's the problem? They don't have knowledge of manu motuhake or tino rangatiratanga. That's a simple. How do you fix that? I do. Teach them. And that's pretty much what happened. I just sat in it, was like, bro, I've got to do something, and it just clicked. Like, that's how we lived on the marae, on the park. We would all teach and learn and grow. And then decolonisation has pushed us into a system of relying, but also pushed us, Māori, into a system of poverty, where all of that it's just a big ticking time bomb for our people to go. So Māori women are the most imprisoned First Nations in the world per capita. Our kids are killing themselves at a fucking exponential rate, and all of those, our kids are getting taken from us. Our language almost got obliterated. All these things it all stems from colonialisation. So I just look and go, right, how do we break this back? Like, how do we re-heal and decolonise? Yeah.
And I think when you sort of like see things of that magnitude, and a lot of people, I think, get disheartened by seeing these big issues but not necessarily knowing what they can do. And I feel for you is just really going down that funnel and just really identifying like, hey, there is actually something that I can do because I've been blessed with the knowledge to, there's that kōrero, right? Give a man a fish and you'll feed him for a day. Exactly. But teach a man how to fish and you'll feed him for the rest of his life.
That's manu motuhake right there. That is the key of it right there. And it's such just having food sovereignty and having tino rangatiratanga and remembering you are a bad bitch and remembering where your mana is, because like Tamaiti said, you always have your mana. Sometimes you just forget, but it's there. And so when you do something like hunting and you're out there using buti as rifles, you're like, boom, I'm a bad bitch, yeah you are. So there's your mana gone up through the roof. Then the kōrero and reconnecting and then going back into the whenua, it's all just a beautiful healing place for so many mamais. And it's just a very simplistic answer, really, Hunting
and going out and gathering kai. And I was sort of suggesting to you or mentioning to you at the airport when we were waiting around, just the different lifestyles that we have.
Yes.
Like you're a hunter gatherer and I'm living in a way where I just eat plants, living this veganism lifestyle. But what I sort of like see in the mahi that you're doing, and I heard it from a good friend, the brother Honui, if you haven't heard their podcast, it was just a couple podcasts back, but he said people have a basic means of living, where there's a baseline of like you're surviving, where that's food, where that's shelter. And if you live above that baseline of means, you now have privileges, you now have choices.
Choices are a luxury.
Yeah, choices are the luxury. And, many people just are struggling to be at their baseline. And I feel where you come in is you're really giving people the tools and the strategies and the way of living to go not only to the baseline but to go to a space where they can have choices. And I feel that's just so mana enhancing for our people. And for me to be on one side of the fence and diminish like the mahi that you're doing, like there's no way I could ever do that. And so sis, it's just so empowering to know that not only are you doing the mahi, but you're wahine empowering other wahine. And my wahine is pregnant at the moment, and like there's so much that I'm learning about mana wahine just going through this process, and you reinstilling mana and empowering our wahine to do this. It's a beautiful thing that you're doing, and I'm so stoked that you've got this funding to do the mahi that you're doing, sis.
Thank you, my bro. That's very humbling to hear. I do see a lot of, I think we forget within Māoridom, for tapus, whakano, woman, karakia, water and cook food, but woman, whare tangata, we are like the ones, like I said before, bro, that transcend from the spiritual realm through to the mortal realm, we are that transition. And I feel like a lot of our men aren't really realising it these days, like we were talking about, bro, and I'm not sure how to heal everybody. But if I can just plant little seeds of remembrance of that, never forget that your mana is there. And you just can take from Wahine tour hunting what you can and go home and water it. Like, I feel like so much better about myself if these women leave feeling so much more, up there. And they do, bro. And it's so beautiful. And some of the stuff that they go on to do, because it's not just the mana, it's the reconnecting back to, some of them have been quite disconnected from their Māoridom. One of the girls I took out, oh, she's so beautiful. I took her out and she had grown up not liking being Māori. She had always wanted to be Pākehā. She was disconnected and she'd never been around a group of strong Māori women. And then when she come first, she was like, fuck, bro, I just got to get into my whakapapa. I don't know anything about this really, the Māoridom life. I'm really driven to know more. Like, you've done this. And I was like, cool. Do you know what she went on to do, bro?
What?
Bro, do you know what she went on to do? She went on, started tracking down her whakapapa, going through everything. Turns out her big blocks of their whenua for their iwi were in Te Kuti in the land court, going through. No one was really fighting for it. She stepped up because alignment, bro. She got $11 million worth of their iwi land back. Bro, alignment on that. And stuff like that is like, that's the stuff that just keeps me going. When I have no money and I'm tired and I'm stressed and I just want to, fuck this, I just want to go to sleep this weekend. But when those kind of alignments happen, because you planted seeds, it's like, shit, I just got to keep going, bro. Like, and there's so much stories like that, and and I just feel so blessed to be a part of that journey, bro, and to see them flourish is just like, shit. I mean,
it's sort of a beautiful.
It all worth it.
It does make it worth it, because I know for damn sure there's moments where you're just struggling, like mentally, like just in your own personal space, and you're so close to the verge of like, fuck it, just you get so close to giving up, but then you're quickly reminded, you just have a sleep, you have a bit of a kai, and you're reminded like, nah, this is the path, because there's so many ripple effects that are happening.
Yeah, hard.
And we're again talking around just how much mamai there is. There's so much, right? And that's not even just tainting the word. Like, there's a lot of suffering, mamai, and trauma that is happening. And there is a sense of responsibility or obligation. If there is something within you to sort of support that, then kei te pai. But another thing that I feel it's good for us to sort of talk about is just not really thinking we have to take on the load of all of that mamai. Right? Do you have any kōrero on that?
No, absolutely. When I came into this buzz, when I just had my like huge awakening of right, do this, and once I started seeing the positive effects of what Wahine tour hunting was doing, I was like, right, now I'm going to fix this, I'm going to fix this, I'm going to do, suicide, I'm going to go into all of the youth prisons, I'm going to do, and I did all of it. But what I realised is that I needed to stay focused onto one, tick that off, and then go into another, because I was just doing kaupapa ADHD, and it was working, but what it really did was tap my modi out, handies, to the point of burnout, and I suffer quite bad depression, and so that was a good wake-up call to, hey, babe, wake up. You can't give from an empty vessel. You can't fill anybody else's up. So what are you going to do when you're like in mad depression? Like, now you've got 2 hikois to do, and you've got to hunt this weekend. Like, you've got to go to the YJ. What are you going to do? You can't let all these people down, because you've really built it up. And it really was stepping back a lot, going, Pania, focus. You can do all of it, but you don't have to rush. You get up the next day, and then you close that one, what you've done, and then you move on to the next one, because I was just tapping myself out. Handies I was. And it was really hard for me, because like I said, I got cope-up ADHD. ADHD doesn't want to help everybody all the time, then it's just like, no, because you're not helping yourself. And if you're fucked, then who am I going to help? No one.
And it comes with that spiritual awakening, or that real sense of maramatanga. It's like, whoa, like, I've got the answer.
I know,
you're sort of
got
like,
it.
I've got it. All these generations of people thinking they've missed it. Here it is right here.
I'm going to get all the whenua back. I'm going to save all the kids. And then, break.
Yeah. But it's just you become awakened to the possibility of having the answer.
Absolutely.
And you're just so energized by the potential of that you do start to give just so much. And I think a big mistake that we've all made is like, we just go too far, and we forget that, hey, we've got to look after ourselves, because as you said, it gets to a point where you're serving, but it's not at what you can serve.
Exactly.
You're just filling shoes in that moment, whereas
turning up, it always comes like, before me, all my kaupapas are modi driven, and if my modi is not strong, solid, going in there like what the fuck am I even doing? I'm wasting everybody's time. So what I found is, so I did a men's mental health hikoi a couple years back, and I went to Rotorua, Ruatoki, Tukumaru Bay. I went to all of the kind of far-flung maraes where it's very strong, that kaupapa is very strong within that, and it became very evident to myself, because I was like, I can do this in a week. I can do every marae, travel down, do all of this in a week. And I really look back at that hikoi now and go, I can see the problem what I was causing for myself. This is why I take lots of time for myself now, is that Rotorua, kōrero was on. And then it just started getting a bit weaker because I was getting too tired, bro. I didn't allow myself in between there, especially dealing with a kaupapa like suicide that is so heavy, to be able to step back, take a couple of days, reset my mauri, have a bath, just centre myself, regain myself, fill my own cup before I go back out there and filling everybody else's. That was like a lesson that I really, it's a hard lesson, but you got to do it. You got to take that time.
Yeah, it's sort of the substance of your kōrero just diminishes, as the closer that they are.
Yeah.
And I'm a big person on being aware of that and ensuring that, hey, I've got a kaupapa man, just limiting it to like one or even just 2 a month, and just speak. And it's not necessarily not wanting to give to all the kaupapa, it's just, man, I need to ensure that the kaupapa that I do give to, that I am on, and I can really give fully to it. And you spoke about suicide. This is another big extension of a big mahi for you, sis, and that comes from hearing kōrero from your nephews and nieces, and this is a safe space to be able to sort of like share some of those experiences, with the hope that that your message does sort of like land. And so when you think about suicide and your experience going through it, particularly through rangatahi, what are some of those things that have come up for you?
For me, about 2 years ago, for some reason, rangatahi always come to me for help on any round, but they have this, they just come to me and they're like, Auntie, everyone calls me Auntie, like, I just want to fucking kill myself. Blatantly, this is what they'll say. Like, I can't get help, I fucking don't want to be here, blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't find them anywhere to send them to get counselling, because this is before the mental health money come in. There was just, like the waiting list was too massive here, or they didn't live in a zone over here, or, no one's in for a couple of weeks. And what just was killing me was that these kids, usually they don't speak out. So when they are speaking out, you may have 1 or 2 days. And you're telling this kid, oh, sorry, you don't live within the living area, we can't do anything. And that was just so fucking triggering and so just Maori munching for me. And it just triggered me to be like, fuck. No one's listening to these kids. They're in my inbox just screaming, help me, yelling to a brick wall, and no one's fucking listening. Well, for some reason people are listening to me. So then I organised a teen suicide awareness march, me, my beautiful sister Nix, my beautiful brother Kaui East. The main core of this kaupapa was to get these kids to Parliament so they could talk, and someone has to fucking listen to them, because they're yelling in my inbox into silence. It's like they're going like this, like, help me, and they're just being smothered. And so we did that. We went to Parliament, and there was a couple of thousand people that turned up, and 10,000 people RSVP'd, and it was the first hikoi I'd ever done. I was like, oh, what the fuck am I done? But the need was just so fucking great. And when I do kaupapa, I allow Māori to flow. What will happen will happen. I will plan it, timings between here and there, blah, 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 but I don't do a very strong framework. What will be, and what will need to happen will happen. And so I got to the Parliament. So my thing was, what if none of these kids get up and speak? It's a very, very heavy kaupapa. It's, in public speaking, as we both know, bro, can be anxiety as, and these kids, bro, the kōrero that came out of these kids killed me, bro. Their mum eyes was so deep, and it was kid after kid after kid after kid after kid, and just seeing them being able to be heard was beautiful enough, that was beautiful enough. But then because of that hikoi, the next day the government issued mental health funding for like Johnsonville Tower, Lower Hutt, like all down there. They started doing it, so it was like, this showed me like, fuck, they are listening, they're just not listening to them. So it booted my ass again to go like, you need to keep going, keep doing this stuff, because you need to be, and this is not to blow smoke up my own ass, this is just how I think when I do stuff now, Be the voice for the voiceless. These kids don't have a voice because no one's fucking listening to them. So if there's something going on, talk about it and be the person that will fucking change it. Like today I had a kōrero of one of the sisters about working within the framework of where she works, and that there were at-risk kids who have been through the youth justice system, and most of the people working there and the people running the corporation are just ticking boxes because they get a lot of money to just tick boxes to have these kids on their books. These kids are our taonga, bro. They are our seeds, and yeah, a lot of them end up in youth jail. You think they're there because they had great lives. The trauma within a lot of these kids is just fucked, and no one's healing them. And we're not putting the money into, like, there's billions of funding once these kids are fucked up, and then, oh yeah, here, orangatamari, here's millions of dollars. No fucking solution. What if we start healing the families before it gets to there? What if we start taking in the mum and dads and having hearty counselling sessions, reconnecting that back, maybe even going through wahine tour hunting before the intergenerational mamais continues? Like, let's stop that, because it's not going to happen in the system that it's set up at the moment.
Yeah.
I really feel like Māoridom needs to step up. And if these kids are from Tūhoi or Kahununu or Ngāti Porou, we take them back to Tūhoi and we put them back in their tūranga waiwai and we surround them with their whanaunga, because what we're doing at the moment, here's the whakapapa, their whakapapa, the kids, there's the fucking trees, all the aunties, and then this is the bad branch that they've unfortunately come off. This is their mum, their dad, they might be on crack, and this kid is just a leaf. What we're doing right now is cutting down the whole tree and throwing them away, right? What if we take this and graft it back onto the rest of the tree, which is still their whakapapa, which is still their tūranga waiwai, and embrace them back into our old way of life and our old way of back of healing, and making sure, because, you know, Māori families are not just your first auntie or uncle, and, you know, we are massive, like Kahununu massive, Tūhoi massive, and that is your family, and we're not doing that. We're just chucking them away to, you know, most of the time strangers, and it's causing just the intergenerational mamais is never going to get healed at this, right? We keep cutting them. Each generation, we're just cutting them.
And we're trying to just sort of fix the surface level and not necessarily, you know, tracing it back to, you know, and as you sort of like said at the start of the podcast, it goes all the way back to colonisation.
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and that's where a big part of our mamai as Māori sort of really started to penetrate us at the magnitude that it has. Because it starts there, and man, there's a ripple effect. And if there is people out there who don't understand that concept, you know, I really encourage you just to really open your mind as well as your heart to understand, like, man, intergenerational trauma is a real thing. And I feel if we aren't able to nurture that space well, it's just going to continue. And I feel there's a real beautiful uprising at the moment, sis. You know, we've spoken about some heavy stuff, and I feel it's necessary for us to have that kōrero. And if there are people out there who feel triggered by this, you know, I really encourage you to reach out to at least someone, or there is some services that are out there that will be there to support you in some way. And, you know, when we think about all of these hard things, man, I'd just like to also put a lot of attention on the beautiful mahi as well. And yeah, there's just heaps of awesome kaupapa, and the time that we're in at the moment is just like incredible, man. There's some mean disruptions happening, you know, at a parliament level, you know, people on the front line, and there's just all this space in here where there are people just not necessarily sort of falling victim to what is happening, but there are people like standing up and be like, nah, that's not who we are, and starting to make those changes and shifts. And I feel it's a very blessing and privilege to be alive in the time that we are.
Absolutely. It's having people like Raori and Debs in there fighting for things like we were saying today, you know, the tie, the net, you know, like people can just go, oh, it's just a fucking tie, bro, like get over it. And to say that is to be so dismissive on how colonisation works. It's not just a tie, it's a noose, and it's so true. And the way he just sort of said, no, I'm not doing that. It's challenging every level at the system. And that's what I just love about Māori Party. They are just bringing that voice for all of us who are awakening now, because there's just this rumbling of a Māoridom, and it is a beautiful thing. It is just this beautiful thing. And to see it, it just gives me so much hope. But on the flip side, what I'm also seeing is the rise of Māoridom, which is only for equality, never for superiority, will frightened ones that are standing on our shoulders to keep us down. If we stand up, they fall off. So the white supremacist ones that write in the comment sections, they want to shoot up maraes and kohangas and stuff like that. That's the repercussion that I know if Māori was saying this, we would get investigated, shut down straight away, because those are massive, huge threats. So having those kind of people sitting there like Lee Williams talking shit and lighting fires under people that will go out and do this kind of shit, I really feel like the government, even though it's kind of production to the crown, is that they really need to start focusing on those kind of people, because we're not going to stop rising. And I'm just very fearful of these white supremacist people who are planting hate seeds constantly and lighting fires under people like that there's going to be a repercussion, like a kohanga getting shot up. And does it mean that the kohanga has to get shut up before they start taking these threats seriously? Do we need another Christchurch? But in a marae, not a mosque. Absolutely fucking not. So we need to start taking these comments and these stupid fucking threats seriously. Yeah, so I wouldn't put it past a lot of them, to be fair.
Yeah, and it is, man, just to sort of like see some of the stuff that is happening. And I think it's just sort of, again, just highlighting, man, there's so much things that are happening here in Aotearoa that, you know, the sort of like beautiful green image of New Zealand, you know, that a lot of people are sort of like using, man. There's so much stuff that is happening here that needs to be addressed. And I feel it's just having these people in the right seats, you know, like Rawiri Ma, Debbie Ma, who are being able to sort of like bring that at that sort of like level. And for us just to also be super aware of it and having a say as well.
They bring this grassroots mamai and poverty mamai kōrero into spaces where a lot of those people serving in there haven't had to live. You can't walk
even
it, you
fathom.
can't talk it, you can't understand what it's like to be Māori, to be poor if you've never been Māori or poor. And you can judge it, you can feel for us, and you can be allies, but you can't be the voice for us because you haven't lived it. And to be in those everyday struggles as a Māori, especially a Māori rena moko, man, I do know for a fact though, and I'm not going to, let's just call it what it is. I know in a way that me being so fair looking as a Māori has opened more doors than it may have closed. I'm able to go into spaces that I know, and I'm being just real here. And I have seen a lot of them close since I've got mine. And it's something that I'm like, I would never take it off for those reasons. I don't want to go through those doors. In fact, I'll kick those doors in now, because now I know you've closed them because of that. Yeah. That's just a little off the cuff.
You know, and if we were to sort of go into another direction, and you know, one of the inspirational kōrero that I really enjoyed with you was about just being a green finger, you know, being able to, you know, talk about you know, just having not only that hunting background, but also just, you know, really going into the garden, you know, growing your own kai, and that providing a major sense of healing for you. So, you know, talk about that journey, sis.
So I was a firefighter, and I was going into the army, and the day before I was going to go into the army, I had some mad medical issues, because I was going into a realm for all the wrong reasons. I was going in for ego, and I'll call it what it is. I was not on the journey that I'm on now. And my tupuna kept trying to, you know, I was getting the signs like, you're being a dick, G. But I was like, no, I want, you know, I was just all ego driven. And it took me for my health to just pakaru as out, and then my mental health to pakaru out. And just for me to sit back and go, shit, I'm not supposed to be doing this. And then I went into deep depression, because I had this whole freaking future set out, you know, because, you know, I want to go back home, I'm going to be in the army, and I'm going to be a firefighter, da da da. Then I had nothing, and I couldn't even work anymore, bro. And the darkness that took me to was exactly where I needed to go. I needed to go into that darkness and sit in it and really, you know. But what was happening was I was just, you know, stuck at home and shit, and then I started going into my mara and learning and planting and going into the earth, and it started healing me. And every time I'd go into a bad state of mind, like I would go and buy like a fruit, some, you know, fruit trees or whatever, and I'd be like, okay, so this fruit tree's gonna fruit in like 6 months, so I have to be around in 6 months. So it would give me that that kick to be like, get me out of that dark space. Like, well, in 2 months, that's going to be flourishing because I want to see that. And it just kept me going that little bit. And every time I go out into the mud and put my hands in the soil, like, I could be pissing down with rainbow and just a fucking mess. And I'll be out there at night time even just going hundies like my neighbours must have thought I was fucking crazy growing weed out there or something. But I'd be out, and it would just reset my mind, hundies. And yeah, and every time I go through that garden now, I just think of like, fuck, I remember when I was in the darkest place when I planted that cherry, that cherry tree, and it's flourished, 3 times now, so that's 3 years that I've gone past that mum eyes, and it's just a way of literally planting seeds for my hope to keep going. And then from that I just studied and became a horticulturalist, and I just love it.
And I was so inspired by that because thinking about, the lifestyle that I live in and being able to go into the mare and being able to not only, just consume the end product, but it's just the whole journey of it, planting a seed, nurturing it with the right soil, putting all of the aroha into it, and knowing that, through having conversations with you and other friends who are just all about mara, man, they're just so grounded. There's so much healing. There's this exchange of mauri that you can give mamai to Papa Tuanuku and she only gives aroha back.
Yes, kōrero, absolutely. I love the way you said that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And like for me again, and I said it to you, and I'm going to say it in public, is my goal now is to get into the garden, into the mara, and just plant just my first bit of kai this year in the next couple of months. So that's my whittle for myself, and I know it's just going to provide me with so much as well. So just want to say thanks heaps for that conversation, sis, because it did spark something that I needed to get out.
Thank you for bringing them out of me, because I don't talk about that part. Like, there's a lot of my life I don't talk about, but I think like it actually having this quarter, I think I actually do need to talk about that more, because that was how I got through a very dark period of my life, and I'm like, maybe I need to talk about them more to help other people.
I reckon.
Do into that.
I reckon go hard, because it's on. It's an awesome part of your story, knowing like what you had gone through, and then sort of being in a really bad space, and then looking out into the whenua and be like, oh yeah, that's something I can do.
Yeah.
And you instilled hope, and you didn't necessarily need anyone, but you had the taiao. And that's like so awesome. And then that progressed into like what you're doing now, but that seemed to me to be like such a real pivotal part of your life.
It really was. It was coming out of ego, because I was a dickhead. I used to have like gold chains, gold necklaces, blah blah blah. I was just living to be the flashiest, fakest, emptiest vessel I could be, honey, and I was doing it well. And then all my ego's through the roof because I'm 5'5". I think I'm cool. I was shit at it, by the way. Ask anybody. But and then, now I'm going to be in the army, and it took what I had built up my ego to break all the fucking way down and sit in that darkness, and Papa Tuanuku to heal me, to realign me, to just get my head fucking straight, get back in the game before I went on to this journey. And it was, like most people go, oh, it's a horrible time. You know what? I wouldn't change a goddamn thing. If it means it got me here and it aligned me to Papa Tuanuku and my healing and kept me here, and it taught me so much. Like, I feel thankful for that process. And now I don't wear, like, I got like Kmart earrings, they're like, but that's it. But I don't have all the flash shit anymore, because when I see all that stuff, it just reminds me it was just insecurity around my wrist, around my neck, it was just emptiness. So I don't get into any of that anymore, and it's actually really freeing. And not that I could anyway, because my budget is shit.
What an awesome like life lesson though, like as you started to say, just as an metaphor, all the chains or anything just started to get stripped off, and you just
really
left
did.
very bare,
Really
and there was no ego to hide behind anymore. And what a necessary part in your journey, because like what you're doing now, it's so like grounding. And like your ego cannot exist in the space that you're in now, eh?
And my kids will knock that down.
Yeah,
anyway.
and I feel because of the experience you've had, you challenge your ego a lot, right? Like, am I doing this for my ego, or am I doing this for the kaupapa?
I have to, because I don't like. I have had so many opportunities in the TV world, and like so much massive opportunities, but I have to sit back and go, I don't want to do that, because that's coming about me, Pania. And it really was. And it was going off the kaupapa, and all these amazing opportunities were coming, and I feel blessed that I was allowed to be, asked to do them. But if it doesn't realign what am I doing? I'm becoming about me, not we. My kaupapa is we. It's wahine toa hunting, not Pania is going to go hunting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has to come back to the kaupapa. So I've turned down quite a few things just to make sure it realigns. But then also, when I do get offered stuff, I just think, okay, right, what does this look like for the betterment of the kaupapa, but also First Nations in general? So I got doing a kaitiaki documentary with the BBC World News, Al Jazeera network, and initially I wasn't keen because I don't want to be that person. You know, I don't want to be like doing it for now I'm on international TV, like, what the fuck, because it's not. But then I sat back and went, yeah, well, you know what, Pania? What you're doing is First Nations, mihi. You're doing manu motuhake, and a lot of nations look to Māoridom. So imagine how many First Nations are going to watch what we're doing in New Zealand and can plant those seeds into their own community, in Cree Nations, you know, Native Americans, all of them be like, if just one other person on the other side of the world watches that and goes, shit, man, we can do this. You know, I can moose hunt. I'm going to teach, you know, my sis how to moose hunt. And they start manu motuhake. And I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying, you know, just to spark
just
a little
to reconnect
fire.
Reconnect that indigenous knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. So that was the way I had to look at a platform like that, which usually I would have said no, but I had to look at that and go, you know what, yeah, this is for the betterment of indigenous communities, whether I like to admit that or not. Like, I need to go and do this. Like, I got offered to do Naked and Afraid like 2 years ago, that American program, bro, when you're naked in the bush. No one wants to see that. Everyone will be afraid. Okay,
Yeah.
everyone will be afraid. But I turned it down. It was big, you know, cool, like, fuck, that's mean. But I'm so glad I turned it down because that did not align with anything that I was doing. And I sat back and was like, you know, fuck, that's a pretty big...
Should I?
No, I was like, oh, fuck, nah, bro. You know, and it just... I know if I had done that, and I'm not shitting on anybody that has done that, that's beautiful, that's mean, bro, you know, fuck, that's mean. But I had to always kick my own ass to be like, no, that has absolutely nothing to do with the kaupapa, and you're not here for yourself. Like, you're here for we, not me. And it is hard.
Yeah.
Because there's sometimes I was like, oh, but I really want to do that.
Yeah.
And you're like, nah, bro, it's not on, you know.
Too much on there too. And, you know, as we sort of like started to descend here into Nelson, we had a main kōrero around manifestation, right? And how important and how we, I guess, have manifested things into our life just through alignment, through trust, through doing what we need to do, but also
Staying
like believing. And, you know, we shared heaps of cool things. You know, sometimes we put things out there and we just let it go and we just sit in it, and then, you know, 2 days later, in your case, you know, just things just start to happen. And so when you think about like manifestation, and when you think about bringing things, creating things or achieving things, or, you know, what is the process for you, sis?
So for me, I never think I need money. I want a car. What I do when I start that process is I think, what is that money good for? Or why will that open the door for? So for me, like I'll tell you so much has happened with the wahine toa hunting that is not on social media or TV because it's so spiritual and so much amazing stuff has happened behind the scenes. And I was like, right, this needs to be in a book. I'm going to write a book because this is the reason. This is what I was getting back to with the manifestation. The reason is so people can see behind everything and they can see the spirituality, and it will plant seeds in that direction. Because for me, te ao Māori is very te ao wairoa. So into that alignment, because alignment always comes into it. If I write this book, people will be able to see behind the scenes. Right? Cool. And so then I manifested it because I'd already put it out there. The reason why. The true reason why. Because that is what will get you what you want. The true reason why. If it is true, good and needed, it will happen. So my true reason was for people to get into the spirituality of te ao Māori. Because this is what happens. And then 2 days later, because I told my bro, he's like, write a book. Yeah. Did you even go to school? No, shush. Anyways. And then 2 days later, I looked so I put it into the universe, and I was like, this is the reason why. It's for te ao Māori. It is. This is what we, you know, spirituality. We need this. Boom. 2 days later, I looked in my inbox, and Penguin Publishing Houses had hit me up to, they wanted to do a book with me, and I was like, boom, there it is. And that's how you manifest. You just have to go, is it true? Is it right? Is it needed? And what is it needed for? That's how I manifest. I mean, other people might have their own ways, but that's what I find, and it will always align and it will always come. It may not come in the form that you think you need or want, actually, but it is what you need. And it's once you go on your journey and you start to see that, you're like, oh yeah, shit, I see why.
And
this
you
all
need
played out.
and you need that awareness to observe what is coming, because you might have an idea of what it's going to come in the form in, but if you don't have the awareness, all you're looking for is that.
Yeah.
But you got to be very aware of the other things that are coming in, and you got to interpret it like, oh, hey, is this connected to that? And if it does, that is you like welcoming things, and that's just being open. Whereas if you're close to it, if you're so determined on what is, and if you're just thinking about that, you are really limiting yourself to the other possibilities that get you closer to actually getting there.
Exactly. Within the realms of manifestation, you're working within the realms of spirituality. You are not working A to B. You are working fluidly. See, here to you could be straight line, or it could be this whole room. That's how manifestation and spirituality works. It's not here to there. It's everywhere all the time. So yeah, like you're saying, seeing where it opens, what the doors are opening, but it might not just be this door here. It might be that door over here, which takes you around something that was going to be absolutely horrible. So it's a beautiful thing, eh?
It's trippy, eh?
It is. It really is.
Every time I go deep into that, what brings me back into this space is like, I'm exactly where I need to be, you know. And if you start to think about, man, I should be over there, I should be here, you now are out of alignment. You know, you must always remain maurito, you must always remain grounded and just present with what is right in front of you.
Absolutely.
Whereas if you're not present, you're never really going to be open to receive. You're never going to be receiving if you're not present. It's only in the present moment that things truly exist.
And this moment will never happen again. This Maori flow, this excitement before we go to Real Talk and Nelson, and we've just had that, like, this moment will never happen again. So you have to sit in it and absorb it. And once you can really, it's about appreciation, I think.
Yeah.
Appreciation. Gratitude. Yeah, it is. It really is. It really is.
And what a day it's been, sis. Like, holy heck, bro. Like, and we came here for a kaupapa, but it feels like we've been in kaupapa the whole time.
We've been on deep wananga for like 2 weeks, it feels like. We haven't even got to the bloody, I haven't even got changed yet. No, this is what I was saying, like, I only ever the universe will only ever put me into conversations at this level with people I need to be with, you know, Maori exchange with, and to help me fill my own kete. Like, I usually drive to every Real Talk so I can get in a mind frame and get into that zone of my Maori before I get out and pump it out. But then coming, and I was like, shit, I'm going to be on a plane. I'm not a people person. It's going to give me anxiety. I'm not going to be able to focus. But bro, being with you all day has just put me into this deepest wānanga that I've been in before I've done a Real Talk, and I just really want to thank you for that, bro, because I like I said, I have this thing, I only ever listen to people like that I want to be like, and that can help me feel my kete, and I can help them as well on my journey, and the universe always puts those people right in front of me, and I'm very appreciative for that. And the kōrero is all for today, bro, because you're on,
man. You're on, we've had some gangster kōrero, and
we really have,
you know, and I believe that too. You need to be around people that you either aspire, that you're inspired by, or you know will add value to you. Whereas
Absolutely.
I think a lot of other things, it's just a lot of noise, because I think a lot of people fall into the space of giving advice that they need to take.
Yep.
Whereas if you're giving advice from experience, those are the type of people that I like to be around, is when they're sharing from knowing, rather than from sharing from just because they need, you know. For me, I'm just very aware of what I taken from certain people. And honestly, it's been such a pleasure just journeying with you today, sis. And before we do finish, like, let's talk about Real Talk, you know, like, because this is the last thing that while we're here in Nelson, and this is the last of 5 or 4. No, 5.
I've only been on 4. This is my 4th, but I think there was 5.
No, so let's go through it. There was Porirua, New Plymouth, Wanganui, and now here Nelson. So this is the 4th one, and this is the last of the run so far. And talk about Real Talk. Like, how's the kaupapa been for you, sis?
For me, it was just beautiful from the beginning. So I take a lot of my kōrero, my guidance is from Te Aotearoa, and I taught te matakete and tuhunga for my guidance and my staying, you know, alignment. And I had a reading with one of the matakete, and she said, you need to go home. you're going to have a kaupapa that, because I'm from Poreroa, and I was getting very disconnected from where I was from. And she said, you need to go home. There's going to be a kaupapa that will ground you back into where you came from, because the kids there, you are those kids, never forget that you were them. And then from that kaupapa, then doors and doors and doors will open, and it will just flow. You need to do it. She didn't know anything about this. Then a couple of days later, Tania Ka, who I love, by the way, I love that
shout
woman.
out, girl.
Shout
out.
I love her. She's
Coaching hub, let's go.
She's on. And so she hit me up and was like, sis, so would you want to come back to Poreroa and talk to these kids and do this kaupapa? And I was like, absolutely, absolutely. And from that moment on, like being a part of this journey and getting to share my story to these kids of, I was used and now this is what's come out the other end. It just feels, it's where we're supposed to be right now, bro. It's where we're supposed to be. And I wish a lot more people would do this, is the ones that have, come out the other side. Go back and talk to those kids, bro, and be like, I know you're going through the hardest times of your life right now, but this is where you get your battle scars, and that's where you get your armor, and then just keep going, because when you get to adulthood, you'll just be like, shit, I made it through, and then make sure you turn around, put your hand back down, and reach back and get those kids again. And it's just a beautiful way of healing intergenerational trauma.
Yeah,
is doing these kind of things. What about you, bro?
For me, it's been like awesome just to be a part of this kaupapa. Real talk, big shout out to Tania and her team, like support networks. I think of Izzy, I think of Ari. Just some awesome
Selena,
wahine, who have just been able to come together and create this to empower our wahine. And for me to be the first tane to be welcomed into this kaupapa is just like also such a big blessing. And just the quality of the event in terms of the events themselves, how they look, the caterers, just from everything, how we're looked after. Tania has done such an awesome job, and I'm sure this is only going to continue moving into the future, and I'm sure it's only going to scale. So for those of you who are listening and you've seen Real Talk really being channeled through the social medias, I really encourage you to be a part of it, whether you're going through something heavy or whether you're in a space of wanting inspiration. There's so many beautiful people who are part of the panel, right? And everyone has a similar story. Everyone is on the same journey of wanting to help and inspire in some way, and I'm sure there's something in there for everyone. So just thought it would have been a cool idea just to wrap up our kōrero with just talking about Real Talk, sis.
When I look at it, I can just see this being a massive thing in the future, and for us to be at the very whakapapa at the beginning, because it's going to just go season after season after season. I just sit in there with such a humbled appreciation, because I just see this, it could be worldwide easily, and for us to be a part of the whakapapa, I just felt humbled to be
cool,
here. It really is.
And sis, just to finish us off, if you have any last final words, thinking about, the people that are listening up until this point, and, what are some final words that you might want to share?
For me, I think that our intergenerational trauma with the Māoridom is now starting to shift, and there's hope on the horizon for intergenerational tino rangatiratanga to return. If you can play your part, we can all play our part in that. So it's just finding even the smallest little ways to help heal. Just love one another, bro. Just love one another. Just be nicer. Yeah, that's really it.
Me. That's it.
That's all I got for you, mate.
And I love it, because it does come down to, the mother of everything, which is aroha. If you can just give so much aroha, and I think a big part of that is how do you give aroha to yourself as well. And once you sort of find your own healing, once you find that own sense of love for self, everything else does become a lot easier, because you find the spaces to shine your light. And I think, no one's light should ever be dimmed. We should all just be out there just straight up beaming. And I think that right there is the lighthouse. You talk about the ahika, you talk about all of these fires. It's just when people just live a lot more happily and live in this sort of space of alignment that things do start to shift. So
they really do.
Thank you heaps, sis. Thank you so much for coming on, and what an awesome day. And to the whānau, thank you so much for listening. And there has been some heavy topics that have been sort of mentioned in our kōrero. I will plug in some links if you do need some extra support in some of these areas. But thank you so much for listening, and catch you in the next episode. Mauri ora.
Mauri ora whānau.